Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese special episode. Today I am your Joe Dix, as always, but I'm interviewing Alex Fraioli of No More Whoppers podcast and also of Critical Hit Bar. Thank you for Hi. Thank you for joining me, Alex.
Oh, no problem.
Yes. So you own a bar, Critical Hit.
I do.
In Nagoya.
That is true.
How's it been going?
Good. I opened the place in November, and I had to take a few weeks off to go home for Christmas and New Year's, but since then it's been pretty good. February was very nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
It's doing well.
Good. You did a soft open in like October, September?
That's true. Yeah, the last week of October, we did what they call a soft open, where basically you can come in, but everything kind of sucks, but it's there anyway. Yeah, that was a good learning experience.
Yeah. Do you feel that you've learned a lot since then? I mean, just having it open running, where you have to be running a bar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before I opened, I worked part-time in a couple of friends' bars, and that prepares you for maybe like 15% of the experience. The rest of it, you just have to do yourself.
Yeah.
And after a month of it, I was like, my legs are going to fall off because I'm standing up for 12 hours a day.
Right.
But they toughen up very quickly. Now I can stand up to 13 hours a day.
For our listeners who may or may not listen to No More Whoppers, which they should be, but who don't know a lot about the bar, could you describe it for them?
Yeah, it's oh boy, it's a retro video game bar. There's been video game bars in Japan for years, and that was kind of the inspiration. But with a more retro focus, kind of, I guess, the most common type in Japan. I just don't have a lot of recent games, nor am I that into recent games. But I will always have a fondness for retro games, and so that's pretty much what we've got. Everything from NES up to and including PS2, I want to say. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, it's not a huge place. It's kind of long. You go in. There's only 12 seats, 8 at the counter, 4 at a table in the back. You sit down, you have a drink, you play a game. I think it's good fun.
It sounds like it from just stories I've heard on your podcast week to week.
Oh yeah. Well, on my podcast, I typically focus on the negative.
True, but
I'll be positive on somebody else's podcast.
Yeah, but I don't.
I'm not going to talk about the jerk who rips up my coasters or cries in the corner or punches his coworkers.
I wanted to ask about that kind of stuff. I'll jump into that now. So I've been to different video game themed bars here in America. There's a chain called Barcade. There's one in Philly. There's one, 2 in New York. And there's, they're sprinkled throughout there's different places that use that theme as a bar. But if I ever had the idea to open a video game bar and do that, I would feel weird. Because my idea of that is me and friends of mine hanging out, playing games and drinking. But then it's a business, so you have to let strangers come in and touch your stuff. And how difficult has that been to let them go through? Because you brought in a lot of your own personal game collection as well as magazines and those kind of things that might not be able to replace or not replace easily. How is that? That would drive me insane. I just wonder how that is for you.
Well, part of the reason I'm able to do this is I don't want to get all zen, but I had like a weird realization about material goods a few years ago. I was you remember that the giant tsunami that hit northern Japan?
Yeah.
There was a big fundraiser, I think headed by Christian Nutt and somebody else, called Play for Japan, which was a people donate rare game stuff to help fund tsunami relief. And I had a copy of Metal Gear Solid Integral and Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance signed by Hideo Kojima, that I got at E3 2000 something or other that I had sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, you know what? They're sitting up there collecting dust. Let's put them online. Let's see what I can get for the disaster relief fund. So those go up online, and at first I'm like, I'm thinking of like, oh, I need to take this auction down. I need to take this down. I can't lose these. But then somebody bought them, and I did lose them. And then after that, I'm like, oh, I don't actually need to have all this crap. Here are the two things that I really treasure most in my gaming collection, and I sent them to a dude in London, and it's not killing me. I'm still alive. It's not destroying me. And after that, I was like, oh, I've got a lot of video games that I'm doing nothing with that are sitting there, either in Japan or in my parents' basement in this, what I would term a collection, but all it does is just kind of sit there. And I thought I wanted to put it to use. I'm keeping this stuff really for no good reason other than I really enjoyed it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's okay to let other people enjoy your stuff, I think. Now, if I were one of those insane collectors, that would be different. Like,
sure, if you had
the guy who has every NES game boxed,
Yeah, well, there's that one guy. I think he had every Nintendo from NES all the way through at least GameCube, and he just sold it all, I think. And how could you let that go after?
Oh boy,
I don't remember, but no, that's it. I mean, because I've gotten to the point now where I've been pushing myself away from physical media.
Yeah.
Once I sort of cut the cord on comic books and went digital with comic books, and then like video games slowly went that way. Like, I don't buy any physical 3DS games anymore because it's just so easy to have them all on the system. So I can get that like separation of the physical part, but then some of the old stuff I still like, I don't know. But
yeah, old stuff is yeah, I guess nostalgia is the word. It's sort of overused a lot, but I think that's really the only way to describe it. Like, I have my original NES there in the bar from, when I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I had to replace the connector on the inside. But other than that, it's the exact same unit, and it plays just fine. And yeah, if somebody spilled a beer all over it, I would be pretty angry.
Sure. Understandably so.
But then I would just buy a new one on eBay and put that in the bar.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. Physical stuff. Losing physical stuff is not going to kill you.
Yeah. That was one of the things rolling around in my head. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Just because all the memories attached to it. It's having strangers come in and paw through it. But I guess at a certain point, once you've like committed to it, that's it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about more in the bar in a sec, but Japan. You moved there in 2006?
I did. My first experience, though, was in 2004. I was a study abroad student at Chubu University. That was just a 6-month program. And then I went back to good old Ohio in 2005, graduated, and then, 2006, came back to live here. Okay.
So when you went there, what was the major influence to go there?
Oh, just a huge otaku nerd in high school. It really started in high school. I was studying Spanish, and it was getting kind of bored. I was getting bored of that, and I saw that my high school was offering Latin, Italian, Russian, and Japanese. Mm-hmm. I'm like, let's try Japanese. I like video games. I like your Japanimation, mm-hmm. right? And I studied that, continued it into university, had the chance to study over here, and that's pretty much how it happened. Now, there's a trend I noticed in myself and in several other people that I've met here. A lot of the people who started studying Japanese for that reason, for the nerd aspect, the anime, the video games. After actually coming and living in Japan, the enthusiasm for those things has gone way down.
Really?
Like, yeah, I haven't seriously been interested in anime in maybe 8 or 9 years, and video games. I'm sort of stuck in the past. I'm not really into modern day gaming.
Right.
And you come here thinking, oh, it's the land of those things. I'm going to be able to see and play all the newest things all the time. And you quickly get tired of it because the majority of it is just not that good.
Yeah, I was gonna. Is it because of it's so oversaturated, or?
That's part of it, yeah. And the other part is that that stuff is just not. It's not super popular among the everyday citizen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not like I don't know. I've read articles or I've heard people say something to the effect that everybody in Japan reads manga every day. You'll see old men reading it on the train all the time.
And that's just not.
Yeah, you do, but half the time it's just porn.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you got me technically, but it's not like a cultural thing that everybody enjoys all the time. It's still kind of relegated to that subculture.
Yeah, so it's not too different from here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you went there, did you think that this was going to be a permanent move for you? And do you still think it's a permanent move?
I did not, but I do now. Maybe.
Yeah?
I don't know. Don't tell my mom.
You do know, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when I came over here, the idea was, pretty much it's what every English teacher says when they come over here. I'll maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years, and then I'll go home. We'll see what happens. And it's been almost 9 years now. And yeah, I feel bad because when I left, my older sister was very concerned. She's like, "When are you coming back?" I'm like, 2 or 3 years. Don't worry.
Yep.
And then here I am 9 years later opening a business. And I don't have any plans to go back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it just, what's the attraction? Like, now that you've been there, why stay? I don't mean that in like I don't know how. I don't want them to come off why are you there? But
you've got some nerve.
Yeah. How dare you leave America? But like, what has, why Japan now? Like, I get the attraction to go there originally, but what's kept you there rather than bringing you back to America?
I find it a lot easier to live than America. For one, I live in the city. I don't have a car. I don't need a car. I take the subway or my bike everywhere. Well, my bike was stolen. I'm going to buy a new one this week. Thanks for bringing that up.
I'm sorry.
Every time with you.
There's New York, right? Like, you don't need a car there either. It's true, also a city.
That's also true. Hang on.
I got you.
Living cost though is not that high.
Right.
I live in an apartment in a nice part of the city. I pay about the equivalent of $350 a month.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's very affordable. It's easy to save money. And if you're an English teacher, it's easy to make money because that's pretty much never going to go out of style. I mean, that's not my only job, obviously, but it's a part-time job. It's a thing that everybody does on the side to some extent. Like almost every foreigner. Like unless you own a company, you're probably still teaching English in some form.
Well, how hard is it to teach English? I mean, like, because I've heard or known of people who have gone without knowing any Japanese at all, and they were able to just go and teach English that way. I mean, is that something that's even possible, or?
Oh, that's almost advantageous.
Really?
They some students, they want you to be as foreign as possible, which includes not speaking Japanese.
Wow.
In fact, their assumption when you sit down is, this foreign idiot can't possibly understand our miraculous language. They like that. They like to feel like they're in this exclusive club. We're Japanese. You're not. We're special. We know all the cultural things. You'll never be able to figure it out. Good luck, Whitey.
Do you think that they are? Because we certainly have xenophobia here. Do you think it's more prevalent there than here?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not like outright racist. I mean, obviously there are people who do that, but
sure.
The everyday sort of xenophobia in Japan it's pretty benign, and like it takes, I don't know, it depends on your personality. It took me years to get used to it.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that drives me crazy. Like I can be walking down the street and I will overhear a Japanese person say to his or her friend, just loud enough, they don't give a shit. They don't care if I can understand them because they think that I can't. They're just like, oh, look at that scary foreigner. Watch out for this scary guy. Or just, ooh, scary. I've heard suspicious, looks like a terrorist.
Wow.
That's why I had to shave my beard in Japan. Like I used to have a big old beard.
Yeah.
But my facial features are such that if I grow the beard, I look like straight up Al Qaeda.
Yeah,
So yeah, people are like will always comment, "Oh, you look terrified. You look like you're about to blow us up." So I'm enough with it. I caved. I shaved it off.
See, I haven't given in. I've had people say that as well. I had a woman. Wow. I held a door for a woman a few weeks back, and she turned around. She said, "You know, you look like that kid who blew up a bunch of stuff in Boston. Has anyone ever told you that?" Like, no, they haven't. She's like, "You do. You look like a terrorist." And then started yelling to strangers, "Doesn't he look like a terrorist?" I'm like, thanks a lot. I just held the door for you. You're very welcome.
Wow.
So I get that, but
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then you'd love Japan.
Yeah, I'll be right over.
Great. So that part of it, that the xenophobia is something that you get used to, but it still takes a lot of time.
Sure.
And I'm still not even completely used to it after almost 9 years. It's something that is because you're always going to be seen as this weird outsider. You know, there's really nothing you can ever do to be accepted, and that's fine. I'm fine with that now. I don't care about it, but at first it was like, why won't you accept me?
Yeah, just be nice. Well, I remember. I mean, I don't want to spend half the episode talking about things that have happened on your podcast for listeners who aren't familiar, but when you were talking about going to get different paints and things like that when you were setting up the bar, and the difficulty with the ordering forms and all of that. And I had tweeted you and jokingly and just said, I feel like this would be a lot better if you just spoke Japanese. And but the fact that like you clearly speak the language and you're talking to them and they still like those types of stories. It can't make it. Yeah, sure, you can tolerate it, but after a while, it's like
Yeah, there's a series on YouTube. I think most people have probably seen this by a guy named Ken Tanaka. Mm-hmm. He's a Japanese born, but of foreign blood, and he looks like an American dude, but he's completely Japanese. Mm-hmm. And he does a whole YouTube series about what that's like because it's weird, Yeah. And he did one video called "But We're Speaking Japanese," which it's all about genetically foreign folks who happen to be born in Japan, making them Japanese citizens, fluent in the language, and yet they're still treated like crap in Japanese society.
Wow.
When they speak Japanese, they're often ignored. The waiter or waitress will often defer to your Japanese companion, whoever you're hanging out with. That's happened to me numerous times. I go out to dinner or something with the girlfriend or a couple of guy friends, and it's my turn to order, and the waiter or waitress just continues staring at the Japanese person, waiting for the Japanese person to order for me.
Oh my God.
And there's a lot of hey, hello, I'm trying to order here. And it's very, very frustrating. But again, it's one of those things you have to realize it's not malicious. It's just incredibly ignorant.
Sure, and
it's still not malicious. Yeah,
right. And it seems like it's sort of ingrained in just the way of the culture. So it
really is. Yeah,
I guess it's in a way difficult to get angry at it, but still frustrating.
Yeah. In the moment, it is extremely frustrating.
Sure. Well, I was going to ask what the biggest downside to living in Japan is, but we might have just covered that.
We may have. Oh wait. What else is awful? Two things that are routinely frustrating for foreigners in Japan are the national pension system and the national healthcare system.
Ooh, okay, I'm listening.
The healthcare system by itself is not that bad. The problem is that if at any time you go off the national healthcare system and then you decide to get back on the healthcare system at a later date, you are expected to back pay for the time that you missed. And I'm not sure that Japan knows what insurance means.
No.
Because that's not what it is, right? I mean, I had insurance for a while. I changed my job, so my employer stopped covering me. So I'm like, oh, well, I better get myself coverage soon. And I sat on it for like a year. I totally forgot. I was uninsured for a year. I almost had a bike accident, and I'm like, oh, that was close. Oh, no, I need insurance. I forgot. So I go to the city office. I'm like, hi, guys. I missed out. I forgot to re-up, after I lost my job. So could you guys sign me up for the health plan? I'm like, sure. First year you have to back pay $2,000. And I'm like, what? Why? What? Oh, because you were off the plan for a while, so you've got to make up for that. No, that's not how insurance works.
Is that because of the lapse between you having it through the employer and you going to sign up, or just because even the time that you had it with the employer, they don't even count that?
Oh, they count that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was the time that I miss with a little extra added on because they like to do that.
Right.
And I had no choice. I had to pay it. That's the worst part of it. Like, I want insurance, and that's the only way to get it.
Ugh.
Yeah. The thing about the national pension system is, and I've had this explained to me in several different ways. One of the most infuriating things about Japan is that if you're here, you have to pay into your national pension, from your paycheck every month. Usually it's like $300 or so.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how long the period is. I think it might be 1 year, maybe it's 2 years. If you're only in Japan for under that amount of time, you can get that money or most of that money back.
Okay.
The government's like, okay, we get it. You're not staying here for life. Here's your pension money back. Good luck. See you later. Now, in order to use the pension money, you actually have to live in Japan, I believe, for over 25 years.
Oh, good.
So there's a period of between 2 years and 25 years in Japan where that money is just going into the garbage. Wow. Like, you're giving the money to nothing. If you're here for 24 years and you decide, well, I'd like to go back to America now, you're not getting a dime of that back. If you stay for 1 more year, then you can start collecting it, when you retire.
Right. And now if you go and come back, does it all...
I don't think so. I'm not sure. They probably would hold on to it as long as you're still registered with whatever your city or ward office is.
Well, yeah. I understand you not wanting to leave at this point because you're just about halfway there.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, for sure. Well, back to the bar. How long have you had the idea to open a video game bar?
I got the idea about almost 3 years ago. I was an ALT. I was an English teacher in a few elementary schools in the Japanese countryside. I moved out there to get away from the city. I'd been here for about 5 years at the time, and I was getting kind of sick of it. I was hanging out with a guy who was really starting to annoy me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all my friends have moved back home. All that's left is this jerk. I think I'm just going to take a job in the country for a little while and see what happens.
Get away.
Yeah. And I really needed that escape because I was able to calm down considerably. I taught at the 3 elementary schools in the countryside, very, beautiful place. Mm-hmm. And, during one of my weekends, I was sitting at home playing Final Fantasy VI on the Game Boy Advance mm-hmm. and drinking a beer and thinking, wow, this is nice. I'd like to just do this all the time. Well, how can I do that? Oh, yeah, video game bar. And that's where that came from. I was originally inspired by a video game bar in a nearby town, a little town called Ichinomiya. Mm-hmm. It's a bar called Genesis, mm-hmm. Written in the Sega font, which I love.
Yeah.
Now, legally, this guy can get away with it because in Japan, obviously, the Genesis is called the Mega Drive. Sega does not actually own the trademark for the word Genesis in Japan. And yeah, he kind of took me under his wing. He taught me the basics of the bar. I worked there for a time and then moved back to Nagoya, started saving up money, and opened, last November.
I like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do you think that a bar like Critical Hit could work in America? I mean, I know there's certain ones that I had mentioned earlier, little spots here and there, but your specific style of bar, do you think that could work here?
I don't know. Well, it really depends. The reason that I think it works, that specific kind of bar works in Japan. And what I mean by that specific kind is I've got games just lying around everywhere. Uh-huh. In general, I think Japanese people really are not going to steal my games. And I've had a lot of probably my clientele is probably half Japanese, half foreign, and the foreign customers really don't do it either. So maybe it would be a a safe thing to do in America. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
I'd like to go to a video game bar in America. I've never even been to one.
Like the barcade one that I've been to is just arcade machines, and then there's and they're separate from the bar. It's almost like two separate rooms. You have the bar, and then around the corner there's that, or it's like the bar's here, and then the arcade's in the back. Like, there isn't actually one. I don't think I've been to a specific one that has actual consoles set up. But I don't know. I feel like people are shittier in America. Maybe Japanese people are shittier to foreigners. That might be, they've got that one, but here I think people might be shittier, and they might try and steal something, because I feel like you would have to have some sort of security lock on it to and that's not a great.
The advantage to the retro consoles is that not a lot of people still have them, so there's not a lot of point in stealing those games.
Unless they take the whole console.
I mean, if you can stuff a Super Famicom in your coat without me noticing, you've earned it.
Just take
Please, nobody steal a Super Famicom.
No.
It's the kind of thing where, I mean, the NES. I don't know anybody in Japan who has an American NES. I don't think those games are in any danger.
Yeah.
But whereas if I had a modern day console like your PS4s, your Xbox Ones, somebody might be able to steal a game or a controller or something. Not that anybody would. I mean, I trust my customers pretty much. But there's assholes everywhere.
Sure, yeah, it could happen.
The only modern day console I do have is the Wii U, and that's mostly for Smash and Mario Kart, and that's behind the bar anyway, because the controllers are wireless.
Yeah.
It's that's a fun one.
The Wii U?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be. When they announced it, I was sort of disappointed, and then ended up grabbing one because I knew I had to get it for Mario Kart and Smash. And I think last year, even since I have it, I haven't unplugged it from the HDMI port. I have two HDMI ports, and the other one is used to swap in between consoles and cable and whatever. And Wii U's still in there. Just that's been like my primary go-to. It's a fun little machine. Yeah.
I originally bought it for Dragon Quest X.
Right.
Of all things. Yeah. And then that lasted for a couple months, and then it was like, oh yeah, there's really good games on this thing.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. I just finally beat Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze last week, and that was, man, that's a game.
I've heard that's really good. I have the soundtrack playing at the bar sometimes, and every time I hear the name, I think of like a delicious cocktail, because that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, you should make one. That should be a menu item.
A Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Yeah. I don't know what would be in that. Something blue, and then something, like a mango with something.
I do have mango liqueur.
Okay.
And banana.
Okay.
And coconut, but it's gross.
Maybe you could serve it out of a coconut.
I also have a gorilla.
Oh, well, then that'll be perfect. You pop that in there, and then you just have to set it on fire, and then it's done. Yeah. So, what aside from not having to worry about theft, what other benefits do you think there are to having the bar in Japan rather than anywhere else?
Oh boy, let's see. What are the benefits? Well, that sort of nerd culture is more prevalent, I would say, in Japan. And I mean, obviously, anywhere in the world, you're going to get the guy who's like, I remember Super Mario Brothers. I remember Contra, but only in Japan, I feel like I get a lot of female customers who are, they come in like, hey, do you have Pocky and Rocky? You do? Cool, I'm playing that. Or, do you have Momotaro Dentetsu? Yeah. You got Twin Bee? Yeah, I'll play that. I'll sit down, I'll play a game. There's, I mean, not to say that games are not popular with women abroad, but in Japan, it's the nostalgia, I think, is a little bit stronger.
Yeah,
and this applies doubly, to ladies who grew up with, an older brother or a younger brother, even, who sort of introduced them to games.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just started to like them, themselves, and they became their own kind of gamer, that defined their original gaming tastes. But they always have that nostalgic feel for, the one time, like my brother and I used to play Street Fighter all the time,
Right.
A lot of that.
You also advertise the bar as not only a place for video games and a bar, but a place for English conversation. And do you think that part of the business is bringing a lot of customers in? Is that something that people go there for, or do they more come in for the video game side or the bar side of things?
It is mostly the video games and the booze, but I do get a lot of people, usually Japanese businessmen, who just want to come in and practice their English, which ordinarily I would find incredibly annoying, but it's part of the job. I kind of have to do it, and
sure.
As long as I'm drinking too, I can tolerate it.
It's a win-win.
It is, and I've actually met some cool guys that way. A friend of mine, a dude from Tokyo who comes in like once a month. He's only in town for business once a month, but he always comes in because he always wants to practice his English. He lived in America for I think 10 years, and then when he came back to Japan, he found the transition back to Japanese culture to be very jarring, very difficult. And now he has no chance to really speak English except when he comes to my place. So he can sort of exercise his English ability again. And and he likes games, which helps a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering or if you do have customers that are coming in for the English speaking part of it, are they turned off by the video game part? Like, is that a barrier for them at all? Or have you experienced that?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I've had people who just don't understand the concept. Talking about this three-pronged attack: alcohol, video games, and English lessons. I had a guy come in who was only interested in the first one.
Huh.
That was the most awkward 25 minutes of my life.
Well, at least he was only there for 25 minutes and not the whole night.
That's true. Yeah. The bar was empty. I'd either just opened or was about to close, and he comes in. And he just sits down. He orders like a whiskey on the rocks or whatever. And he's like, what kind of bar is this? I'm like, it's a video game bar, sir. He's like, that's weird. And he just drinks his whiskey slowly. And then he starts fiddling with the NES. He plugs in the NES, turns it on. He plays Mario 3. And all I can hear every 10 seconds is the dying sound from Mario 3. just over and over and over, and just him going, this is difficult. This is very difficult. And then he just paid and left. Like, why did you come here?
Why? Yeah.
There's
just bored.
I don't live. The bar is in a neighborhood that is surrounded by like a block in every direction. There's like regular bars everywhere. Bars, Irish pubs, English pubs, and what have you. Japanese style izakayas, all that stuff. And yet you came to the one place that's probably least appealing to you. I don't know why.
Uncomfortable. Do you think that'll be something, the longer the bar is open, that you'll have to deal with? Or do you think that people will sort of get it?
I think you're always going to get people stumbling in who have no idea what it is. But by and large, word of mouth, I think, is going to sort of, help people understand what it actually is.
And how has that been? I mean, do you think that word of mouth has helped a lot, or foot traffic, tourists? Yeah.
Yeah, it's I would say it's 90% of my business is just word of mouth. And the rest of it is Facebook, Twitter, some people even found it through the website. I don't know how that happened, but yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think if you Google it, you're like the top hit.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I think because you could very easily Google critical hit bar if you wanted to get like a picture of a critical hit. You know what I mean? If you're looking for an actual bar in a game.
Yeah.
So you made a good choice.
Yay.
Yeah. So what do you think, what's your favorite part about owning your own business now that you do that?
Let's see. I don't know how else to phrase this. I don't work well under people.
Yeah.
I detest having a boss in any form, and to be able to just have my own business it's incredibly relaxing and reassuring. Because I hate having to be responsible for other people. I don't like having to always be reporting in to somebody higher than me. That was my biggest problem as an English teacher. Like every few months, your supervisor would come down, and they'd stand in the back of class and watch you teach, a lesson or two. And there's a word for this. I don't know, this personality type, but like if you are monitoring me and watching me do my job, like in the capacity of a supervisor, I'm going to do a bad job because you're watching me.
Yeah.
Right? It's just leave me alone, let me do my own thing, and everything will be fine.
There is a phrase for that. I don't know what it is. There's got to be some sort of study or something that someone did, and it's named after that guy. But yeah,
it's called Fraiolism. I think that's it.
That's the one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that freedom to do what I want to do, to keep my own hours, to show up whenever I want, leave whenever I want.
Yeah.
Go out drinking whenever I want. Right? I mean, like,
exactly.
I'll close up at 2 a.m. I'll go to a friend's bar,
Right.
I can do that because I wake up at 2 p.m. as you've seen today.
Right. Well, it's your place. You're not worried about,
Exactly.
Angering someone else. It's just, it's you. So, is that the normal over there? Because like here in Baltimore, the closing time is 2:00. Like other, New York is 4. What is it over there typically? Is it?
There really isn't one.
Yeah.
Although I've heard that you need a special license if you're selling liquor after midnight.
Okay.
But I don't have one.
Well,
so hoping nobody asks for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've officially my hours are 5 p.m. until late, and late depends on the situation.
Right. If it's
like
filled,
if it's
you'll.
If I mean, I'm not going to kick anyone out.
Right.
If there's people there, stay as long as you want.
Sure.
If it's a weeknight, like if it's Tuesday to Thursday, and there's nobody there, and it's 11:30, I'll probably start shutting down.
Sure.
Because like I'm not going to get a lot of people late night Tuesday,
Yeah.
But Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday typically goes until 3, 4, even 5 a.m.
Oh wow.
Which is great.
Is that with people in the bar, or with you having to do closing stuff and clean up and everything?
By that point in the morning, I've already started cleaning up, like little by little. So like when the last person finishes their drink, all I have to do is kind of flick the lights and I'm out.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That was always the worst working in the food industry, where you're done at X o'clock, but then you have to stay there for another hour and a half doing the whole cleanup.
Yes. Yeah. Wait, where did you work?
I worked at Domino's.
Whoa.
Yeah, not good.
Well, I love Domino's Japan, I have to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you have any input on that?
In what way?
No, I mean, when you were at Domino's, where you're like, "Hey guys, we need to clean up our act in Japan."
Oh,
because I think they listen to you.
They might have, but
okay.
I didn't really. That was a company that they didn't quite. You were very disposable.
Yeah,
you were a body that was able to drive to and from the store, and then right when you get a different job, that's when the car you've been using and just paid off decides to die on you because you've wasted 4 years of your life delivering pizzas. But hey, fun stuff.
At least I'm sure you got free pizza though.
Every single day.
Well, there you go. That's a perk.
I mean, kind of, but I think I developed some sort of lactose intolerance throughout the process. I haven't had actual milk in a while because I don't want to test it again. But after a while, because I mean, you have people that don't pick up or people who can't pay or whatever. So it's just free pizza all the time, which was fun.
Wow.
But I don't know. After a while, it was like I'd go to have a bowl of cereal and I was like, this is not great. What happened? And then it's like, maybe it's all the cheese all the time that I've been consuming. I could have done it. Yeah.
Free pizza sounds nice. I used to work at Arby's when I was in high school.
Right.
I would get some free roast beefs, I believe is the plural every day. And it was one of those things, like my manager was like, whatever you do, never ever steal food. You're not allowed to eat food from here. Like as she's saying this, she's piling like burgers into a sack to take home. So I think the implied message was just don't let me see you taking.
Right. Or I can, but you can't because I am Mr. Manager or Mrs. Manager in her case.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was always they said the same thing. I worked at McDonald's when I was like 14 or something.
Oh, fun.
And it was and like looking back at what you do when you're a 14-year-old in a place like that, and knowing now when I go to McDonald's what's probably on the other side of the window.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and I was a genuinely or generally, good kid, I think. So if there's, and I'm sure there's a lot shittier kids out there than I was. So knowing, not that we ever like did anything to the food, but just like making a mess in the back or stealing nuggets or the cookie dough and, those things.
I think, that's fast food in Japan is generally very clean.
That's what
every time I go back to America to visit my family, I'm kind of wary about, fast food places because I have a better understanding of what actually goes on back there.
Yeah. And I was going to Little Caesars. We do the podcast every Wednesday, and we would typically, I would get off work at 6. We would all meet up, go get pizza from Little Caesars because it's $5 for a large pizza. We'd get like 2 or 3 of them. We'd eat, and then we'd record the podcast. And then I think a couple Sundays ago, I got off work, went to Little Caesars, got the pizza just to have for dinner because it was cheap and quick. Don't feel like cooking. And then just spent the rest of that night and into Monday just vomiting until there was nothing left to vomit. And now I can't go back to Little Caesars because I don't. Wow. But it's all, 16-year-old kids there.
That's amazing. What is that? The hot and ready?
Hot and ready. $5. Pepperoni or cheese.
The cheapest large pizza you can get in Japan is probably a 2,000 yen minimum. That's like $20.
$20. Wow, really?
And that's like no toppings. If you want toppings, it's going to be at least $30.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. It's this weird luxury food in Japan.
That's bizarre. Even like Domino's here, you can get for $8 on like their little special night. But
I want a special night.
Yeah.
If I had an oven, I would like to serve pizza in the bar.
That would
that would be nice.
Yeah.
As it is, I'm test marketing right now something called pizza gyoza,
which is
you're familiar with regular gyoza?
No.
They're also known as pot stickers, I believe.
Okay, then yes, I do know.
You can buy the little skins for those in the supermarket to make your own, and I buy those skins, but instead of pork and cabbage, I put in cheese and pizza sauce.
Ooh.
And then, crimp them up, fold them up, put them in the freezer, and when somebody wants them, take them out, throw them in the fryer for about a minute.
Yeah.
And they're nice and crispy. It's like a mouthful of pizza.
Okay, so it's like a Totino's pizza roll, but not terrible for you.
With a little Asian twist.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. The only thing is it takes a long time to actually make them, so I've got to make them ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then I've got to put on the blackboard how many orders I have remaining,
Right. But that's not bad, and it's the setup for it is probably a little bit of a process, but actually doing them in the bar,
oh yeah,
having them ready to go for people.
It's good to have like small, munchable things like that, just bite-sized things.
Yeah, you don't need like burgers and stuff, but
right. I like to call it gamer fuel.
Don't we all?
I think that's the worst term in the world.
It's up there with all of the other worst terms, but that's one of the bad ones for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of games, what influence do you think video games have had on your life? Obviously, we've talked about you moving to Japan because of that interest and the bar now. Do you think that they've influenced you as a person at all, or?
Oh boy.
Sorry, not to get deep too early for you, but
no, this is great. This is it's shared experiences. It's a great form of bonding with my Japanese customers. Like, I'm an American guy. They're Japanese guys. What could we possibly have in common? So I always start the conversation with, what kind of games do you like? Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, I like Dragon Quest. I'm like, dude, me too. Like, that's my favorite series.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones have you played? And they're like, oh, I played all the way up to 7. I'm like, okay, cool. Did you play 5? They go, yeah. Who did you marry? And they think about it for a while. And I say 95% of guys always say Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, yeah, you did, and I give them a high five because that's obviously the correct answer.
Right.
And that, like, automatically we're off to a good start because we have this shared experience, right? I mean, in the span of this 30-second conversation, we both have a good understanding of each other's personality. We both married this girl in this game for this reason, you know.
Right.
It's we instantly have this kind of like chummy link that I like to, you know, cultivate, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's how games are helping me in the business. It's as a sort of shared experience.
Yeah.
Personally, it's just it's a great way to relax. I mean, you know that.
Sure. Absolutely. You know? And I get that bonding thing. I mean, like, anytime I make a new connection with somebody, whether it be a new coworker or just a new, you know, acquaintance, it's always like when you can get to that point where games come into the conversation and you can start having that dialogue surrounding it, you know, and when you can both bond over that and have, you know, it brings up memories in yourself and then in that person as well, and then sharing them right there. Yeah. It's like you have, like you said, a connection with somebody.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, and that's why, like, this thing that I do every week is fun because it's, you know, not all the time do I get to hang out with a lot of my friends. You know, we've gotten older and drifted apart, some of us here and there, but like this is the one night a week where it doesn't matter. We're going to sit down for an hour or two and just talk about games.
That's nice.
You know, it's been a fun 2.5, coming up on 3 years, I think, something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing. And then, you know, doing the website, doing everything that we do, keeping it all going.
Yeah, speaking of friends and games, that's something that games have sort of helped me do is to keep up with my friends. Because I moved over here, you know, almost 9 years ago. I left, like, my friends and family behind, so to speak. But, you know, I can still play Mario Kart 8 with my 2 friends from high school online.
Yeah.
And these are the 2 guys that I played Mario Kart 64 with when it came out.
Right.
And like we'll set up our phones, like we'll do like a FaceTime while we're racing.
Yeah.
So it feels like they're still in the same room with me. It feels like we just got home from school. We're doing some Rainbow Road, you know.
Exactly.
That's, you know, that helps me sort of maintain a connection with them.
Yeah, I think that, like, that's one of the things as a kid that I never thought we would. I mean, we you know, we didn't think we would get to this point, you know. Yeah. Sure, it's inevitable, but but now that it's here, like, having, you know, like my nephew who barely talks to me anymore because he's at that sweet spot of just turned 14, you know, fun. So I'm not cool anymore. But, you know, for those few years, like, being able to play things online with him, even though he lives, you know, an hour away from me, like, still being able to connect and you know, those types of things, and even friends that I haven't that I can't see every week for the podcast or things like that, being able to just jump on and play something online or just text them, hey, I saw you were playing such and such, like, what do you think? You know, having that connection. Yeah. It's a good I like that. A good bond. Yeah, me too.
I when I went home for New Year's, not strictly a game, but my sister got us into Trivia Crack on the iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with this.
I am, because I see it all the time, but I don't know if I haven't downloaded it because I'm afraid of it. Because I got really into Quiz Up was the one, I think it was.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was, I don't know, that one was last year's big thing. When I was delivering pizzas, we would all stand around in the meantime playing that one. I feel like it's the same kind of thing, but anyway, Trivia Crack.
Yeah, it's like, it was the first time in a long time that my dad and I had, like, a gaming experience together. Because when I was growing up, we would, like, my family had a Sega Master System, and, like, we would play Phantasy Star and Miracle Warriors together. And then we got the NES, and we played Dragon Warrior, you know, Final Fantasy together, and so on up through Super Nintendo, PlayStation. Like, we went through a huge Final Fantasy Tactics phase and everything.
Yeah.
He was the first person who showed me Doom on his work laptop, which at the time was a gigantic brick.
Yeah, the massive. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, you know, after I went off to college and came to Japan, we hadn't really had, like, a shared gaming experience in a long time. But with this Trivia Crack, like, we're like doing questions every 5 minutes. You know, like 5 minutes. Like, even, you know, I'm home, it could be in the same room. Could be watching the same TV show. Could be in different rooms. I could be upstairs in my parents' guest room, like watching something on Netflix, and my phone goes, and I look over. Oh, it's my turn. You know, It's fun. I miss that kind of playing games with my dad. I don't get that that often, but it's nice to have that again.
Yeah, I don't either. I think like ever since it's been a while, but once I had moved out and everything, obviously, like occasionally, like my mom would jump on and play something on Wii or something like that, and she still plays things on her iPad and computer and here and there. But last year, I think around the 30th anniversary of Tetris, I sat down and I was like, I'm going to do a video for the site called Playing Games with My Mom, Tetris.
Nice.
And we did that, and we recorded us playing the NES Tetris, and like she hadn't played it in probably 25 years, but she had all of these memories flooding back, and as we played, she's talking about like what it was like playing back then and how she would, because my dad used to work nights, and she'd stay up to make sure he would get up for work around like 1 or 2 in the morning, and while she's waiting on him to get ready and get coffee, she'd sit there and play Tetris and everything. And then like going and having that experience 20 something years later with her again, and then my dad hadn't touched anything since then. Like like I said, she'll play on and off different things. He hadn't done anything. And then about a month ago or around Christmas maybe, he was at my apartment and the Tetris for PS4 had just come out, and I was like, hey, do you want to try this? He's like, oh, I don't even know what to do. And I was like, well, you just use the D-pad and you press these buttons to spin it around just like you did back on the NES. And he sat there playing it. I mean, he was terrible, but he sat there playing it for a good while with me. And it was like, again, another thing. And then he called me when he got home. And he was like, that was really fun. We should do that again. I'm like, I didn't think I'd ever hear you say that. But
yeah. It's not just our generation, but I think our parents too. Like, there's something about games that tie you to a specific moment or a specific year. Mm-hmm. Like again, with Tetris, my older sister, not a gamer at all, but when she was in high school, she was homesick with the flu for like a week, and I gave her my Game Boy and Tetris, and she just spent the entire week in bed playing Tetris on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
And now, if she plays Tetris now, like, she can recall exactly what her room looked like at that time. She can recall exactly who her friends were, what was going on in her life during that 1 week.
Wow.
That's how strong this emotional tie can be with games.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember hearing sorry.
Oh, no. What were you going to say?
No, I remember hearing a story on some podcast where a guy was talking about how when he was a kid, his mom was pregnant with his younger brother, and he was playing the original Zelda on NES. And she's going through morning sickness while she's hearing the Overworld theme. And now if he's like home and it's like, I think he had his ringtone or something and it went off, and she felt nauseous because it just brought back those memories.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And that kind of stuff, like it just gets ingrained in us,
It does. In my case personally, that is partially the Dragon Quest series.
Yeah.
The music, I can remember sitting in my friend Justin's basement playing Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. And then going outside and acting them out in his backyard. That was fun. But probably the Mega Man series, 1 through 6. Like, every one of those games, I can remember exactly where I was, who I was with, what I was doing.
Yeah.
So many memories just connected to each one. Like Mega Man 1. First time I played it was at my friend David's house. He had a basement that was very brown and smelled weird. Mega Man 2 was at Justin's house. Nobody could beat Windman. And Mega Man 3 was at Matt's house. Mega Man 4 was at Jeff's house. 5 was also at Matt's house. 6 I bought on my own. I think the first game I bought with my own money.
Really?
Yeah. But it's I don't know. Yeah, and I still play it at the bar sometimes. Like before people come in, or even after people come in. And I'll still feel like I'm with a friend in somebody's basement, just hanging out. We don't have school tomorrow. I did all my homework already anyway. That kind of feeling. Yeah,
and I love that when there's a game that, we all have that like list of games that are so close to us and so near to us, where we're like, you go back to them over and over again. But there's certain games where I will play them not remembering playing them or something like that, and the second you get into it or you hit a certain scene and you're like, oh, holy shit, I'm here again. I'm in that kid's weird basement with that weird couch that folds out in a weird way, and I kind of want it for my bedroom, but I don't know where to buy it. That thing. Like, that still is lingering in my head,
that happened to me with Sky Kid. Do you remember Sky Kid?
Yeah.
I played that at this kid's house in high school. Like, his parents hadn't changed their basement, I think, since 1982. It, like, really thick orange shag carpeting, that kind of thing.
Oh.
and it, like playing Sky Kid and that music, you know. And I was playing it recently at the bar, and like I could just smell the 80s. You know? It was that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's weird things like that just come creeping back, like, you know, there's certain games that I've gone back and played, like, just you see it on like a top whatever list, and it's like, oh, I want to check that out, and you check it out and realize it's something you rented at Blockbuster for a weekend, and you remember that weekend in particular and how you walked there from. Just it all comes rolling back.
That happened to me at the video game bar Genesis. I forget the Japanese name. It's something. The new type, new human, not the new humans, but you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And the guy put it in, and he turned on, and it was Dino Ricky for the NES.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I know this game. This was the very first game that I rented when I was a kid, and I hated it.
Yeah, not a good one.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of old games, you've talked in the past and even here just now about your affinity for older games, and I agree with that. You know, I still play modern things, but I tend to skew older. You know, and I'm still like going back and replaying things that I missed. But what do you think it is about those games that makes them stand out from games today? Like, do you think it's the nostalgia or just the quality of it, the design? Like, I struggle with this myself. Like Shovel Knight was a perfect example of what a great game is, but I don't know if it's because it was designed like those old. I don't really even know how to.
I think Shovel Knight is a great way to look at this because it's very easy to be biased by, you know, your Dragon Quests and your Mega Men because that's all not all, but it's a lot of nostalgia.
Sure.
With Shovel Knight, it's like, oh, here's something new and fresh that sort of draws upon those old games, so you can sort of look at it in a modern context.
Yeah, and
it's I think it's just simplicity and depth. It's those two things. Like, if a game has that, I'm in. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because the thing that sort of gets me about modern gaming is the complexity of games. I don't want my games to be complex. I want them just to be fun games.
Yeah.
You know, like the word games.
Yeah. Like it
something simple that I can sit down, I can turn on. I don't want to sit through 8 screens of logos and an intro movie.
Right.
I don't, you know, I just want to hit power and start and go. And that's the appeal of retro games to me. That's the simplicity. The depth is, you know, like Shovel Knight, the secret stuff. That's the only game I've ever gotten all the achievements for. It's the only game I've ever cared to get all the achievements for. Like, I usually don't give a crap about achievements. What's the point of this? But that game, after you finish it, it's like, I want to keep playing. What else can I do? Oh, there's these achievements.
Yeah, I kept going on and on with that game. And like last year, we ended up giving it our Game of the Year award, and it was a fight. Like, you know, like we had some people saying, oh, it should be Far Cry 4. Oh, it should be this. And it was like, no, Shovel Knight, like that hands down. Like, you can't beat it in terms of, like, Shovel Knight's a game you can hand to anyone, and they should be able to enjoy it. I had another follow-up, and now it left my brain once I started going on about that. But, no, I remember now. Yeah, I just started playing Fire Emblem Awakening. And having never played a Fire Emblem game, really, or not in depth, but I start playing it, and it has these cutscenes, and every time you go and attack, it cuts to a weird version, like they're 3D models, and they just jump at each other once with the sword attack, and then it goes back to the top-down grid view. And luckily, there's a feature in the settings to turn all of that off. Turn off the voice acting, turn off the battle animations, and it makes the game so much more enjoyable for me. Whereas, like, I feel like some people might like it the other way, but I can't. It's too much. Like, that simplicity of it, where I can just go.
See, I like the battle animations in Shining Force, which sound like the same thing to me, but for some reason those 2D sprites I think are quainter. Like, I don't mind watching those. No,
because I think a 2D sprite's fine, but it's these weird junky 3D models that don't. They're somewhere in between N64 and GameCube, but don't look as good as either. It's not great. But when you turn them off, it's quite enjoyable. I'm going to get ready and wrap up, but before I do, I got a few more questions.
Sure.
Are there any games that you're looking forward to in 2015? You know, coming right off that question about how everything modern's not great. Is there anything modern?
Good question. I don't know. Oh, wait, refresh my memory. What's coming out this year?
I don't know. The big ones in my head are like, there's the Arkham Knight.
Oh yeah,
there's that. And Uncharted 4. You've got all those things. The Last Guardian, if that's a thing that's even real anymore, who knows anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. The big ones in my head that I'm like super jazzed about. There's a game called Axiom Verge that's coming out, I think, first to PlayStation consoles, but it's basically Metroid. And it's a guy named Tom Happ who's been making it for 8 years.
Wow.
That one looks really interesting. But honestly, like most of the ones I'm really looking forward to are all the Wii U side of things, and Mario Maker.
Mario Maker.
You haven't seen that one?
No, is it like Princess Maker?
It's more like, you on the gamepad you design your own Mario levels.
Okay.
Yep, you're dragging and dropping little blocks, and you can jump between the original Super Mario Brothers, Mario 3, Mario World, and new Super Mario Brothers, like art style. You can switch on the fly.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, you design your own little Mario levels. It just seems like a cool thing that Nintendo should have done a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to
I don't know. I'm excited for the rest of the Mario Kart 8 DLC. That's about it.
That's a big one for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And if Last Guardian exists, if it even comes out this year, then of course that. But that's about it. I would buy a PS4 for that, by the way.
Right. But who knows if it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's all the trademark thing with that, and is it a thing? Is it not a thing? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm still playing the Shadow of the Colossus remaster on the PS3. That thing is beautiful.
I have not played that, and I'm ashamed to admit it.
The original or the remaster, or both?
Both. Yeah.
Oh, good lord. Well, then, yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, if you're gonna play it, go for the remaster, because the original has the frame rate of nothing. It's extremely choppy, which is a shame because there's so many beautiful visuals in the game. The remaster is gorgeous. It's still a lot of fun. It's not for everybody. Like if you heard us talk about it, Ray is not a big fan of it.
Yeah, I know he likes Eco better.
Yeah, and I really don't. I thought Eco was it's not a bad game, just a little too artsy for my taste. But Shadow of the Colossus is a great mix of that aesthetic and just a great boss fights and a great story. And yeah, it's fun to wander around and slay giants.
I think that's one I have to go back to. Closing out the podcast, I want to talk about the podcast for just a quick second. No More Whoppers. Sure. You guys have been doing that for 3 years now.
Yes.
What has been your favorite part of recording that show?
Oh, just talking to Ray.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of close friends in Japan. I don't have a lot of close friends that I can nerd out with about video games and TV and movies,
right,
and popular culture at the same time. We're very much in sync with each other, and I don't have anyone like that in Japan.
Yeah. Do you think that chemistry has kept the show alive? You know what I mean? There's plenty of podcasts that just don't make it, and it seems like you guys, even week to week, when one of you expresses having a bad week, it still seems in a way therapeutic or something like that. Or
that's exactly what it is. It's we talk it out, we hug it out. That's what we do.
Yeah.
On the show, because we don't have outlets for that kind of thing where we live respectively. Right. So it has to be done there. We just to summarize our history real quick, we both used to write for a fan site called the GIA, the Gaming Intelligence Agency, in 2001. And it was like kind of both of our dream to write for that site, and we both applied at the same time. We didn't know each other at the time, and we were the two new hires, and they invited us into the IRC chat, and Raymond starts messaging me and hey, what's your deal?
Yeah.
Kind of,
as you do when you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, we realized, we both love a lot of the same things. We find this funny. We like this movie, etc. And then over time, both of our situations are changing. Like the GIA had to shut down. We both went to work for the same website. Then we started a fan site. And then I went to work for gamers.com and then oneup.com, and then Raymond went to oneup.com, and we both were freelancing for all these different places. But throughout all of that, we both had this sort of the same base experience writing for this old fan site that sort of, kept us tied together. And really the fact that because he was on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast, I like to stay up late at night. And because of the time difference, we would end up going to bed at around the same time. And it was just staying up, watching TV together on different coasts, just talking about whatever.
Yeah.
That's a kind of friend that you can't get everywhere. And it's I'm very happy that we've been able to keep it going, even internationally. We can do the podcast, even though he's in San Francisco, I'm in Japan.
Yeah, and it
still works out.
Yeah, out of all, I've listened to every episode. It never seems. Oh, wow. Most times, it seems like you're in the same room.
Yeah, we try to do that because at first I didn't want to do it. I was doing a podcast with a guy in Nagoya, sort of the guy that I wanted to get away from when I moved to the countryside. Yeah, forget this. I've had enough of the city for now. This is all too negative for me.
Yeah.
We used to do a podcast, and when it stopped, Ray was like, well, why don't we do a podcast? And I'm like, no, the very idea of Skyping in to do a weekly show is appalling to me. We have to be in the same room or no deal. And he's like, well, here, go on Amazon, buy this mixer, buy this microphone, record your track, send it to me. There, now it sounds like we're in the same room. I'm like, all right, you got me there.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And
it never, it always seems natural. Like like you are there.
That's good.
So it's either magic or it just works. Is there anything in particular that you do to keep yourself motivated after doing so many episodes? Or do you think it's just the nature of you being able to connect with Ray once a week, having that?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's really that. It's the fact that I want to vent. I want to talk about all the things that piss me off this week. Maybe things that I can't say at the bar, or things that I can't talk to my girlfriend about. I mean, my girlfriend's English is not great. She's trying very hard. She's studying right now. Bless her heart. She's just kind of started. So we talk mostly in Japanese, which means if I want to get something out, and I want to do it as eloquently as possible and maybe as angrily as possible, it has to be in English, which means it has to be with Ray. And that's, I need the guy. He's that kind of emotional outlet. And I think that's sort of why the show is fun for listeners and ourselves. I mean, we love doing it.
No, it's always funny, and it's always, you can feel the connection. It's like I'm sitting in a room listening to two best friends. You know what I mean? And
yes.
that, yeah.
That's good. Okay. That's what we're going for.
No, absolutely. It totally comes through. Do you think that it's also sort of like, you're very comfortable in Japan, happy in Japan, but do you think that having the podcast each week is sort of like a way to still be home in a way, or get that taste of home, just that escape from Japan once a week for a couple hours at a time?
Yeah, it is kind of. It's always nice to hear Raymond complain about something that I didn't even know existed.
Right.
Like, I went to the supermarket and there was a weird thing. I'm like, wait, back up. Well, you have those? Like, yeah, we have those in San Francisco. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Do you feel that?
More about your alien culture. What's that?
No, do you feel that disconnect at all? Like, being there? Yeah.
Dude, I bought the newest Weird Al album a couple months ago. And I'm like, this is really cool. I wonder what songs he's parodying. I had to look up what the songs were because I don't listen to, radio anymore because I live in Japan.
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's satirizing. And I look up like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, that is pretty funny.
See, but you know what? Living in America, I still don't get what he's satirizing because it's...
Oh, boy.
Just because I can't, so much of that stuff is...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to a certain age and you just can't get into, Do you think, so you did stand-up comedy in the past. Do you think that doing the podcast each week has filled that sort of creative need? Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
It really has. It's kind of spoiled me now for the stand-up thing.
Yeah.
Because I can record a funny thing with my friend that's only going to go to people who like it. Let's just do that.
Yes.
You know, why bother humiliating myself on stage when I can just, be among supportive folks?
Yeah, and people who are going to feedback and not just sit there and stare and occasionally smile. And yeah, I'd done...
Actually, I have found a venue in Nagoya that's actually pretty accepting of stand-up comedy. So I might try to do something again with that in the coming months. I don't know.
And is that English or Japanese?
Oh, it's all in English.
English, yeah.
I think Japanese comedy is atrocious.
Yeah. I mean, I don't obviously speak it, so I can't, but I've just heard enough that it's not, No, I'd done stand-up a few times a couple years ago. Yeah, a couple years ago.
Wow, what was that like? Where was it?
It was local in Baltimore at a comedy club. They had like an open mic night, bring X amount of people, get X amount of minutes. Wow. And that was my big dream. It was like, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do stand-up. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna be the next Carlin or whatever. And I thought I had decent material. Looking back, like in my head, it's still like, hey, I was okay. But the first show was fine. I feel like the second one was better. But even still, it was more like, the audience was more, hey, we're a bunch of moms and we're going to go out for martinis tonight and see some jokey people. And, it was, and I'm making a joke about, a date that I watched in a Starbucks, a first date between two people, and the whole story, because this is a real thing. Like it played out in front of my eyes of these two people meeting and talking like, hey, what are you into? What do you like? What's your dad like? Blah, blah, blah. And the joke part of it was that it was actually like a guy and a young kid, but the way this guy was talking to this young kid was as if they were on a date, and it was very bizarre to me. It was a strange situation, but the way I presented it and built it up and everything, I thought it was funny, but there's just, when you're telling that to moms who probably have kids who is this kid's age, they're not going to love it so much. But like little things like that, where I was just telling little anecdotes and things, but I don't know. And not that like our podcast that we do is particularly funny. I'm sure, we have our moments, but we mainly just talk about games and stuff. But I think that just having some sort of creative outlet week to week to do something and talk and have people be able to hear it. Yeah.
I've ranted about this in the past. I don't know if rant is the right word. The differences between pre-scripted comedy and improvisation. And I think the thing that engages me so much about the podcast and Ray in general is that we are always challenging each other to improvise something that's going to crack the other person up.
Yeah.
Our minds are going a mile a minute when we're having a conversation because we're trying to think, oh, okay, how can I riff off of this, like in a funny way?
Right.
After he's done talking, what can I possibly say? Oh, there it is, and then you strike, and it's funny.
Right.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's
I
fun.
think most times, yeah. I would say so. Yeah. How difficult is it for you to edit the podcast? Because it's me just doing what we do and having to worry about a stupid thing like our microphone crashing or something like that. Like those little things that happen are slightly a nightmare. But most weeks I typically just drop in music during our quick little break and then hit export and I'm done. So
wow,
pretty much.
I'm kind of a control freak, like super anal when it comes to sound quality and all that. So I'm fiddling with everything. If there's a lull in the conversation for more than like a second and a half, it gets cut.
Oh wow!
If you look at our GarageBand files, it's just 1,000 different slices all crammed together. Like there's a lot that gets cut. We usually record for about an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And what gets cut is usually 20 to 30 minutes of that.
Wow.
And it's mostly silence. It's mostly us just sitting there trying to think of next.
Well, yeah. I can see how you'd want to edit that out.
Yeah, because when I hear that on other shows, it bugs me. It's like, why am I hearing this?
Yeah, why am I sitting here?
Yeah. We also, we might have to take something again if one of us coughs or sneezes, or if the train goes by. You don't hear a lot of that train.
Yeah.
Raised train. If it's in the middle of an important conversation, we just leave it in. But if Ray can help it, if he hears it coming, he'll be like, wait a minute. And the train will pass, and then he'll keep going.
That was, I remember, at some point, because early on, I don't think it was really in a lot of your episodes, but there were a few where you'd hear it just because it was one of those moments you couldn't cut. But
yes.
right around the time that I remember, noticing it is when I had moved to a different place temporarily, and I was right next to a train. So every week when we recorded, I would have the train, and like there was just not, and you couldn't. We would try to block the window, nothing. It was a nightmare. And then in the summer, while I was there, when we have the air conditioners, and we had like window units, and having that, there's no way to block that. So we would just have to either leave it or just like everybody shut up for a second so we can try and cut. But it doesn't make it easy.
The reason that it shows up on Ray's track so often is that he doesn't want to turn his gain up. He doesn't want to turn his volume up because there's a family that lives below him that he's embarrassed of annoying. So what he does is, I'm sorry. He will turn his gain all the way up, and he can speak at a very low volume.
I got it. So that it picks up.
But it also picks up the train.
Right.
In fact, if you listen to the latest episode of Video Game Apocalypse, which Ray guest starred on,
I have it downloaded, but I haven't.
It's so good. It's he's talking about. I think the question was, "What's your favorite short game?" And Ray said, "Attack of the Friday Monsters." And as he's describing it, Chris Antista is like, "What is happening to you? Is that Attack of the Quiet Monsters?" Because he's kind of very whispering into the mic at a very Ray sort of level.
Yeah.
And he's looking for a new place right now. Hopefully, when he moves, he can turn the gain down and sort of speak at a more Alexy volume.
Yeah, a little bit. But see, then you wouldn't have the gems like the Mortal Kombat kid.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
so
that's great.
there's certain trade-offs to turning down the gain.
That's true.
Okay, last two questions.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone who is considering opening a bar or just a business in general? What have you learned that you could pass on to someone?
In Japan or anywhere?
Whatever you think.
Okay. Well, if it's in Japan, get married.
Okay.
Because the process is a lot easier if you're married.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about a business visa. You don't have to worry about a guarantor. You don't have to worry about a lot of the tiny things that I did have to worry about and pay for.
Yeah.
But in general, if you're opening a business, just make sure that your menu is finalized. Because I opened up and then I realized after a month, I need to change a lot of things on my menu. This is priced wrong. This should be this. I need to add this. I'm having new menus printed up very soon. But
yeah.
What else? If it's a one-man operation, try to have somebody that you can call to fill in for you on short notice.
Right.
I just did that for the first time this past weekend. That worked out pretty well.
That's good. Yeah.
What else? Yeah. If you're attending bar, and it's not fancy, you're not worried about being fancy schmancy, buy a pair of Crocs because they're going to save your feet and your knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll look cool in the process. So there's that.
That's right.
Yes.
What else? Don't have your bicycle stolen. That's good advice for anybody, really.
Yeah, just general.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But yeah, there's a lot of things to watch out for in Japan. Definitely, this is what I did, and this is what I recommend anybody in Japan if they're opening a bar in particular.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 7 years to do this, but make friends with every bartender that you can, and just get as much information as you can from them, like how to do this, what to do if this happens, how do they handle this kind of situation. There's no substitute for experience, but the second best thing is asking about those guys' experience.
I think that's good advice. Yeah, learning from people who've been through it.
Learning is great, and I'm what you would call a doofus. Like, I learn by doing. Give me a textbook and I have no idea what the hell is going on. I cannot learn in a classroom. I'm a doer, I guess, which I think is these days just kind of short for idiot. But
I don't know about that. No, because it's one thing to sit there and stare at it and see okay, but then to go through it and experience it, then it's like, okay, well now I can do it, forever and ever.
Yes, exactly. And there's so many things about the business that are like that. Like I've had things explained to me. I'm just kind of nodding, like, okay. I have no idea what you're talking about. And then when I actually do, it's like, oh, I get it. Like cleaning the beer tap at the end of the night. It's this 14-step process that they write down and give to you. And it's like, how can I possibly? And then you actually do it. And it's like, oh, that took 30 seconds. That's real easy. And now I can just do it. Without thinking.
Yeah, right. All right, last question.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone who's interested in moving to Japan?
Oh, boy. Yeah, well, definitely have a college education, because if you're going to be teaching English, that's necessary.
Okay.
Although, I will say it's not completely necessary, because my good friend Gabe, he came here right out of high school and just enrolled in a Japanese course. I think he came over on some kind of a student visa. Mm-hmm. And he learned Japanese, and years later, now he's a professional translator. He works on video games and books and stuff. And
oh, wow.
He's, no college for him. He's just like, the hell with it. I want to learn Japanese. And so he did. My advice definitely be get ready to be discriminated against on a crazy level.
Yeah.
Really it really depends on what you look like. Like, the more un-Japanese you are, mm-hmm. like, the worse it's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're going to be working with kids, because kids are going to want to touch you and grope you, especially if you're foreign looking.
Right.
I remember one of the reasons. Yeah.
No, I remember you telling those stories about just I forget the word for it, but where they're poking you and
the concho.
Right.
Yeah, that's where they shove their fingers up your butt. That's great. And
I remember telling a friend about that, and he was like, "No, they don't." And I was like, "Download this episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
Here, listen to it." And then he was like, "Still, that can't be." And then he had a friend who moved over and was teaching there, and was like, "Hey, that's totally a thing." I'm like, "What did you?" Yeah.
I was telling another friend about that in America, about not just the concho, but how, like, little kids would just, punch me in the balls all the time, because that's Japanese culture. It just is.
What kind
they
of
see it on
fucked
TV.
up culture is?
They see it on TV, and it's hilarious, and they do it to adults. And I tell my friend that, he's like, "That can't be true. Japanese people are polite and everything." And, like, I'm sure the adults are in the media or whatever, but, like, the kids are still kids, and they're still going to do kid stuff.
Yeah.
Which includes punching me in the balls and make me quit my job.
So, prepare to be discriminated against. Prepare to be punched in the balls.
Yes. Prepare to pay exorbitant amounts of money for pizza.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about movies. You know how, like, if you go to a movie in the afternoon in America, it's like you might get a matinee price that's cheaper.
Maybe, yeah.
Japan is exactly the opposite.
Really?
For some reason, it's more expensive in the afternoon. It's less expensive at night.
Wow.
I don't know why.
What about, does weekends, does that change anything?
I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah.
But what are some other fun things? Yeah, just make sure you're on top of your health care and your pension.
Yeah. Otherwise, the fees rack up.
Yeah. You're going to get mail from the ward office or the city office, and you're not going to understand a word of it, and that's why you need to make some Japanese friends and show it to them and say, "What the hell is this, and do I need to pay attention to it?"
And then yes or no, and then...
Yeah, because my first couple years here, I was, like, throwing away, like, tax documents.
Oh, God.
Like, I can't read it, therefore I don't need it. And then, like, after 4 or 5 years, the government's like, you owe us like $1,000. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I hear you go, but don't kill me. But yeah, make friends with other foreigners, make friends with Japanese people. In my experience, the best way to learn Japanese is just going to bars and drinking a lot and talking to people.
Yeah, just immerse yourself.
Yes. I'm ordinarily a pretty shy guy when I meet new people. But if I have, like, a beer or two, I feel a lot more relaxed. I can actually talk to somebody. I'm not afraid to say, "Hey, where are you from? What do you do? How do you say this in Japanese?" etc.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sitting down for this close to hour and a half.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It has been. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
So to close, if you're in Japan, go to Critical Hit.
Yeah.
All the information for that is criticalhitbar.com.
Yes, it is.
And you're on Twitter at Critical
Hit Bar.
Critical Hit Bar. Yes.
And Facebook.com/Critical Hit Bar.
There you go.
Yes. Or you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Patui. That's Pitohui.
And you can follow The Free Cheese on Twitter at Some Free Cheese, and I'm on Twitter at The Free Cheese, if you can keep all of that straight. And for more podcasts, more interviews, more reviews, all of that fun stuff that we try to do each week, head over to thefreecheese.com, where we just remodeled the website, and it looks a lot prettier than it did before. We also got things out there a bit, so now the website's being automatically pushed to that there Tumblr and Google+, if those are your things. Put the podcast on YouTube now, so if you like YouTube over iTunes, it is there. And we're trying out SoundCloud, and if you like SoundCloud, please let us know on Twitter or otherwise, because I may or may not keep using it. It'll be up to you, listener. Yes, and of course, please go listen to No More Whoppers.
Yes, No More Whoppers. At No More Whoppers on Twitter. Facebook.com/No More Whoppers. NoMoreWhoppers.tumblr.com.
See, we're all on
WhiteHouse.gov.
White House.
Yeah. Sure, we're there.
You broke
Wait,
me.
I have a question about the free cheese. Is this a reference to you getting free cheese pizza when you worked at Domino's?
It's not, actually.
Well, what is it?
Shit. I've told the story, and now I don't remember the answer to it. It was one of those things where, I know what it was. Okay, so years ago, I had Twitter, when Twitter was first coming about, and my Twitter handle was like The Real Joe Dix or something like that. It was some silly, dumb thing. And then I just didn't want it anymore. I was like, I'm going to quit. I think I had quit smoking, one of the 30 times, and decided I'm going to quit Twitter as well. That's what it was. Because I quit, every time I went out to smoke is when I would check Twitter. And then when I quit smoking, I didn't have any time to check Twitter. It was like that was just gone. So I was like, I don't need this, and I deleted it. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, I need a Twitter again, but I don't know what to name it. And I'm wandering through a grocery store, thinking about what I want. And then I walked past a deli, and I was like, oh, those guys, they always give out that free cheese. And I got a free slice of cheese from, and I was like, the free cheese, and then that was it. So I made the Twitter handle that, and then when we actually started the podcast, we were trying to come up with a name, and my friend and I, who we did the podcast, we were texting each other like, should it be this? And we were doing all of the dumb stuff that you and Ray were actually just making fun of, the whole, whatever, One Up Radio, all those dumb, those terrible, awful names.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, we have 2 episodes recorded, and like, I need to buy a domain name and do all this stuff, and like, I need to know what we're calling it, and I need to make album art. Like, we need to just fart something out. And he was like, oh, the game fart. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. That's what it's going to be. So I bought the gamefart.com, and we did 50 episodes of the game fart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I was like, this needs to go. And then we switched, and we were running the site off Tumblr at that point. And I was like, I need something more professional, something that looks better, something that I can, if I'm applying to jobs at One Up, which was still a thing back then, or anywhere else to write, I would prefer not to put the game fart on a resume. And I need something that is whatever. So I just sort of took my Twitter handle and rolled it into a website, and then we switched the podcast name around and everything, and now everything's just sort of uniformly The Free Cheese. But then that Twitter thing gets tricky because I'm The Free Cheese, and then the website is Some Free Cheese. But it somehow works out in the end. People know, or they don't know, and it doesn't matter. But yeah,
I don't know that I can beat the game fart for bad first podcast title, but the first podcast I was involved with was a gaming podcast, and it was called Pixel Snatch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was Snatch intended to be that kind of Snatch? Or?
It was, yes. It was my friend's idea. It was sort of a reference to the mosaic that you see in Japanese adult films.
Okay.
And also, we like pixels.
So, yeah, you combine the two, and then...
That didn't last very long.
Well, we actually went from the game fart to foreplay, but I didn't mean for it to be the, I was sitting around trying to think like, hey, I'm tired of the game fart. I need something else. And I'm laying in bed and I'm like, okay, well, there's typically 4 of us. What if we did like 4-player podcast or something? I'm like going through all these things. I'm like, it's too long. It's too wordy. I'm like, 4 players, 4-play. I'm like, oh, 4-play. That's just short, sweet, simple. All right. And then like my girlfriend drew up this little logo for it of You know, it was like, oh, this, and like the way it was all, she drew a little SNES and the wires from the controller spelled out for, it was like, oh, this is nice. I like it. Foreplay. And I told everybody, and they're like, oh, ha ha ha. Yeah, that's funny. I like it. I'm like, what's funny about it? But at that point, I had already committed to the logo and everything. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. And we did that one for another 50 episodes or so.
Wow.
And then when we hit what would have been our episode 100, I was like, fuck this. We're just going to call everything the Free Cheese. And we switched it just so it's uniform. So, yeah, 2 bad names and now one that doesn't have anything to do with video games. So I don't know if it works or not. But,
yay.
You know.
Well, keep it up, Cheezers. Is that what your fans are called, Cheezers?
I don't know that we have fans, but if we did... yeah, they could be Cheezers. We could call them Cheezers. That could be a T-shirt.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll have to think on that. Let us know, fans. What do you want to be called?
Yeah. Cheezers, hosers. I don't think that's taken.
Cheezers, hosers isn't taken. No, not at all.
No. Yeah.
What are they? Pieces of garbage? Is that what Lady Gaga calls her followers? That's what it is.
Human trash.
Human trash. Yes. That's the one. Thank you so much, Alex. Remember...
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate this. This was fun. Remember, go listen to No More Whoppers. Follow Alex on Twitter. Pitohui. Very funny.
Thank you.
Very fun to read. And that's it. We will see you Wednesday night, actually, with the regular, I think, episode 112 is coming up. So stay tuned.
I'll try to be there.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.
Bye.